Hello and a very warm welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Global TV News Cycle live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Muyi Agumofwegbe. President Bola Tinubu has decried the high level of false narrative and misinformation in the country, saying the trend is threatening the fabric of Nigerian society. Speaking while declaring open the 19th Nigeria Editors Conference 2023 held at Akwa Ibom Icon Hotel, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, with the theme Stimulating Economic Growth, Technological Advancement, the Role of the Media. On Wednesday, the President appreciated the editors for their role in the fight for Nigeria's democracy. President Tinubu, who was represented by Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, said that the federal government is working to change the systemic moral decline in the country through the implementation of a sustained mass reorientation campaign aimed at fostering unity, patriotism, and promotion of positive values among Nigerians. The National Executive Councils of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria on Wednesday night suspended their nationwide strike over an alleged assault on the president of the NLC, Joe Ajaero. The unions said the suspension followed the intervention of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. However, the organized private sector, OPS, and the maritime operators carpeted the NLC and TUC over the industrial action, stating that it was ill-timed and misconceived. The OPS, comprising critical players in the economy, noted that the strike would affect the federal government's ability to meet its yearly revenue target. President Bola Tinubu will today join other heads of states and governments in Guinea-Bissau to celebrate the country's 50th independence anniversary and Armed Forces Day. President Tinubu will arrive in Bissau on Thursday for the ceremony, which will be hosted by President Umaro Sissoco Embalo. Guinea-Bissau marked its 50th independence anniversary on September 24, 2023, but the government had scheduled all celebrations for November 16, 2023. The president is expected to return to Nigeria on same day. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in an appeal by Abdullahi Sule of the All Progressives Congress, APC, seeking to overturn a tribunal decision that nullified his election and declared David Ombugadu of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, winner of the Nasarawa State governorship polls. A three-member panel headed by Justice Uchechukwu Oyemanam made this known after parties in the matter adopted their processes on Wednesday. Soborat Usman has details.
During proceedings, Wole Olanipekun, counsel to Sule, urged the court to set aside the tribunal decision for lacking in merits. He argued that the tribunal refused to take the submissions of their witnesses during the tribunal hearing and that data from the BVAS standard at the tribunal were merely dumped and the data were not analyzed as evidence. On his part, Kanu Agabi, counsel to Ombugadu and the PDP, urged the court to affirm the tribunal decision and dismiss the appeal, describing the evidence standard to same as being merely documentary. With respect to the BVAS, Agabi argued that it was sufficiently demonstrated in the tribunal with the printouts from the machine tendered, faulting the argument that they were merely dumped. Ombugadu, PDP, Electoral Body INEC, and the APC are the first to fourth respondents in the appeal. Swabra Usman, Global Television News, Abuja.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will this week issue letters to Nigerian Bar Association, NBA lawyers to commence the prosecution of offenders arrested during the last general election in February and March. The issuance of the letter was reported to have been slightly delayed by the off-cycle governorship elections in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa states at the weekend. The commission announced that it will speedily prosecute the suspects, saying it had secured the partnership of the NBA to nominate lawyers who would prosecute the offenders on pro bono or free of charge. The Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives has called on leaders to tackle the plastic pollution crisis and issues affecting individuals' health and rights. The alliance made this known in a press release on Wednesday ahead of the third session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, INC, on plastic pollution, which begins this week to negotiate a global plastic treaty, featuring representatives from the coalition of civil society organizations. The CSOs called on their leaders to urgently address the plastic crisis. The alliance noted that with the problem escalating to massive proportions, the INCs stand as a decisive turning point in the battle against plastic pollution. According to the alliance, the negotiations are not only an opportunity to address environmental concerns, but also to tackle issues that affect the health and rights of individuals and communities. In addition, the Global South is advocating for a comprehensive set of crucial measures. Let's turn to Nigeria's South now, where residents of Calabar have expressed deep concern that the rise of insecurity in Cross River State may disrupt the famous annual Calabar Carnival scheduled for December 1. With kidnappings becoming rampant in the capital city, residents vented their fear that this year's carnival could be overshadowed. They urged the government and security agencies to urgently address the crisis. According to NAN, Calabar has faced almost daily abductions targeting professionals like doctors, lawyers, professors, and government officials. The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, called off a 40-day strike over the kidnapping of Professor Ekanam Ephraim, a neurologist held captive for 115 days since July. You're watching Global TV News Cycle, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on StarTimes channel 276. Kindly follow us across social media platforms using a Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When News Cycle returns, we'll tell you how currency depreciation and high energy costs worsen inflation outlook. The news continues shortly with details of these and other stories right after this break. Please don't go away. This is Global Television bringing you live broadcasts of the news cycle from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Let's turn to the foreign scene now, where China has condemned on Thursday U.S. President Joe Biden's description of Xi Jinping as a dictator as extremely wrong after the two leaders wrapped up a summit in California. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said this kind of speech is extremely wrong and is irresponsible political manipulation. He says China firmly opposes it, adding that when asked to clarify who she was referring to, Mao demanded, saying, "I think whoever is trying to undermine and sow discord between China and the United States knows it." Biden and Xi agreed at their first summit in a year on Wednesday to restore military communications between the two countries. They also agreed, among other things, that China would crack down on the production of ingredients for fentanyl responsible for a deadly epidemic of opioid abuse in the United States. However, speaking after his meeting with Xi on Wednesday, Biden told journalists he still considers the Chinese president a dictator. He has sparked fury from Beijing by making the comparison between earlier this year. On business now, Nigerian inflation continues to defy global trends, setting a new multi-decade of 27.3% in October, even as experts warned that prices, which have been an uptrend in the past 2 years, will not abate anytime soon. Stakeholders are particularly concerned about the impact of runaway flood inflation, which rose to 31.5% on households, and how the crisis could push more individuals below the poverty line. The National Bureau of Statistics (NBS) inflation reading aligns with experts' estimations, which have projected the country's inflation to hit 30% before any inflection setting. The report says currency losses on the parallel market, where a sizable share of foreign exchange is transacted, would be a major driver in imported inflation going into 2024. From an estimated rate of 30.5% at the end of the year, it warned that inflation would stay high at 23.6% in 2024 on average for the year. The South African rand was weaker in early trade on Wednesday ahead of retail sales data in South Africa and the United States, which would provide markets with fresh direction. The rand traded at 18.2550 against the US dollar, about 0.2% weaker than its previous close. Tuesday, as softer than expected US consumer inflation data boosted expectations that the Federal Reserve might be done with interest rate hikes. South Africa's benchmark 2030 government bond was stronger in early deals, with the yield down 4 basis points to 10.195%. Beyond Africa, nearly 4 million jobs in South Korea are at risk of being replaced by artificial intelligence AI technology over the next 2 decades, a central bank study released on Thursday said. Rapidly advancing they have designed. The new study by the Bank of Korea said some 3.9 million jobs in South Korea were at risk as AI adoption grows domestically, with doctors, lawyers, accountants, and chemists among the most threatened professions. High-income workers with high academic backgrounds face a bigger exposure to AI and have a greater risk of being replaced. The Bank of Korea noted that while AI technology is a threat to existing jobs, it also creates new employment opportunities, including for engineers who develop and maintain AI systems, as well as AI-related startups. As we take a look at sports now, Nigeria will be without the trio Victor Osimhen, Samuel Chukwueze, and Wilfred Ndidi when they begin their 2026 World Cup qualification campaign with a home game against Lesotho at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium today. The 3-time African champions failed to qualify for the last edition of the World Cup in Qatar after playing a 1-1 draw with Ghana at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja, having played a goalless draw away from home. In the Eagles' World Cup qualification history, they have not missed out on 2 consecutive editions of the Mondial, having qualified for 6 of the last 8 tournaments since their first World Cup appearance in 1994, missing only the 2006 and 2022 editions. Despite being favorites heading into this fixture, the Eagles will not only aim to get the better of the Crocodiles in this encounter, but also pick the tickets to the Mondial ahead of South Africa, Benin Republic, Rwanda, and Lesotho. Meanwhile, Super Eagles coach Jose Peseiro has insisted that Francis Uzoho remains his first-choice goalkeeper, despite calls for him to be dropped from the squad. The 25-year-old's form has been the biggest talking point ahead of the Eagles' 2026 World Cup qualifier against Lesotho on Thursday at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State capital.